Now, the International Monetary Fund says sub-Saharan Africa's recovery from the global financial slowdown is moving forward. The IMF says growth in most countries is now reaching the highs of 5 years ago. VOA's Ndiho has more.
Economic growth in sub-Saharan Africa has largely returned to the levels that preceded the global financial downturn, according to the IMF's Director for Africa.
Sub-Saharan Africa's recovery from the global economic downturn is proceeding quite well. Our best estimates at this point is that in 2011 we'll see growth approach some 5.5%, up from the 5% growth achieved in 2010. All of this, of course, depends on the global economic recovery continuing to proceed as well. And as you know, there are some uncertainties surrounding that.
The IMF's report on economic growth in Africa accounts for higher average oil prices, which would result in higher import bills for most countries in the region. Also, a surge in food prices has begun to nudge up consumer prices across the continent. In some countries, inflation has not increased much, reflecting good local harvest, according to Antoinette Say.
So far, the impact on domestic inflation in most countries in many countries has been limited. Some countries have had very good harvests and so have been able to see a mitigation on the inflation rate because of that.
Inflation rates are on the rise throughout East Africa. People are unhappy over the rapid increases in food and fuel prices. In Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda, the cost of food and fuel has increased sharply over the past few months. The high prices have triggered a wave of street protests as people call on their leaders to help ease the cost of living. Say says government should figure out how to help those who need it the most.
In the short term, of course, with these increased food and fuel prices, it is important for governments to look at their budgets and see what room they have to implement targeted initiatives to mitigate the impact on the poor. Of course, they have less space this time around than they did in 2008, so it's very, very important to make sure that they avoid very costly initiatives and that those initiatives are properly targeted on those who need help most, and those are the poor.
The IMF urges low-income but growing African economies to focus on mid-term debt sustainability, better spending, and on finding room to help vulnerable households affected by the higher food and fuel prices. Ndiho, VOA News.